The crash came first. Metal screamed as a black luxury sedan skidded sideways across the narrow Mokwa city street, tires shrieking against wet asphalt. A delivery cart exploded into the air, flour sacks bursting open like white smoke bombs. People shouted. Someone dropped a tray of bread. The sedan stopped inches from a glass storefront, its hood steaming, engine growling like a wounded animal. For a single suspended second, everything froze. Then the driver's door opened. Kang Doyun stepped out. Even before anyone recognized his face, the street felt it. The temperature dropped. Conversations died mid-word. Shoulders stiffened, eyes lowered. He wore a black coat cut too precisely to be ordinary, dark hair slicked back, expression carved from stone. A thin line of blood traced his knuckle where it had struck the steering wheel, but he didn't look at it. His gaze lifted. It landed on the bakery window, on the woman standing behind it. Zola Abeni was holding a tray of fresh bread when the sound of the crash shook Bloom and Grain Bakery to its bones. The shelves rattled. The bell over the door rang wildly. Flour dust drifted down from the ceiling like snow. Her first instinct was fear, not of the crash, but of what always followed loud things, trouble, chaos, the kind of attention she had spent months avoiding. She set the tray down carefully, one hand instinctively moving to her belly. 8 months. Heavy. Impossible to forget. She turned toward the window, and her world split open. Their eyes met through the glass. Doyun's breath stopped like he'd been shot. The bakery was warm, golden with morning light, filled with the smell of yeast and sugar and comfort. And in the center of it stood a woman he knew better than his own pulse. Her hair was pulled back simply, curls escaping around her face. Her skin glowed against the soft light. Her eyes, those same eyes that had once looked at him like he was something human, went wide with shock, and her stomach was unmistakably round. Time collapsed. 8 months vanished into a single heartbeat. Zola's fingers tightened on the counter as if the ground itself had tilted. Her chest locked, her ears rang. This wasn't real. It couldn't be. She had replayed this nightmare too many times to count. His face, his presence, the way the air changed when he entered a room. But he was there, alive, solid, watching her. No, watching her stomach. Doyun took one step forward without realizing it. Then another. His men, 3 of them already spilling out of the car, noticed the shift immediately. "Boss?" one murmured, confused. Doyun didn't hear him. His eyes were locked on Zola's belly, on the undeniable curve stretching the fabric of her dress. His mind refused to process it. Numbers clashed, time rebelled. 8 months. The last time he had seen her, she had been slim, furious, crying silently as she held papers in her shaking hands. Divorce papers, signed with his name. His jaw tightened so hard it ached. Inside the bakery, a customer whispered, "Is that?" Zola couldn't hear anything anymore. Her heart pounded so violently she thought she might faint. Of all the streets, of all the mornings, of all the ways the past could have stayed buried, he had found her. She turned sharply, her movement slow and heavy, and pressed her palm against the counter to steady herself. "Don't panic. Don't run. Don't let him see you break." Too late. The bell over the door rang. Doyun stepped inside. Before we go any further, a quick pause. Where are you watching from right now? Drop it in the comments. We love seeing how far these stories travel across the world. And if you're enjoying this already, don't forget to subscribe. Now, back to the story. The silence inside Bloom and Grain was suffocating. Every head turned, every breath held. Doyun stood just inside the doorway, framed by warmth he did not belong to. The scent of bread hit him like a memory he hadn't asked for. Late nights, flour-dusted hands. Zola laughing softly when he failed at kneading dough. A life that had almost been his, her life. Zola lifted her chin, forcing her spine straight despite the weight pulling at her lower back. She would not cower. Not now. Not ever again. "What are you doing here?" she asked. Her voice was calm. It nearly broke him. Doyun swallowed. "I could ask you the same question." The words came out colder than he intended. He hated himself for that immediately. This wasn't a negotiation table. This wasn't Hatem District. This was her. Her eyes flashed. "This is my bakery." His gaze flicked to the sign, to the counters, to the proof that she had built something while he had ruled shadows. Then his eyes betrayed him again, dragging back down to her stomach. "How far along?" he asked quietly. The room seemed to inhale sharply. Zola's hand covered her belly protectively. "That's none of your business." Doyun took another step closer, slow, careful, as if approaching something fragile. "Zola," he said, her name rough in his mouth. "If that child—" "Don't!" she cut in sharply. "You don't get to say that word." His brows knit. "Say what?" "My child," she said. "You don't get to claim anything here." His chest tightened. "You disappeared." A bitter laugh escaped her. "After you divorced me?" "I never divorced you." The words landed like a gunshot. Zola froze. The bakery disappeared. The years collapsed. Her fingers trembled where they rested on the counter. "What?" she whispered. Doyun stepped closer until only the counter separated them. He lowered his voice, but it carried anyway, heavy with restrained fury. "I never signed those papers. I never told you to leave. I never wanted you gone." Her laugh this time was sharp, cracked, dangerous. "Don't do this. Don't rewrite history because you're shocked." "I'm not shocked," he said. He stopped himself, jaw clenching. "Show me the papers." Her eyes burned. "You know what they looked like." "No," he said. "I don't." She stared at him, searching for something, guilt, mockery, deception. She found none. Only confusion, and something else she hadn't expected. Fear. "You are gone," she said hoarsely. "Your cousin brought them, said you didn't want a scene." Sioran. The name echoed in Doyun's mind like a warning bell. "I was in Japan," he said slowly, "on family business. I never sent him to you." Zola's breathing grew shallow. The room felt too small, too tight. "You expect me to believe," she said, "that everything I lost was a misunderstanding." "I expect you to believe," he replied, voice low, "that I would never throw you away." Her vision blurred. "You threw me away the moment you hid me." The words cut deep. He flinched. "I was protecting you." "You were ashamed of me," she shot back. "Of where I came from, of what your family would say. That's not—" "Stop," she said, her voice breaking for the first time. "Just stop. I survived without you. I'm not doing this again." Her knees trembled. She gripped the counter harder. Doyun noticed immediately. "You're not well," he said. "I'm fine." "You're lying." "I've been lying for 8 months," she snapped. "I think I'm allowed to be good at it." A sudden wave of dizziness hit her. The room tilted. She sucked in a breath and swayed. Doyun moved instantly, vaulting the counter without hesitation. His hands hovered near her arms, unsure, afraid to touch. "Zola, don't touch me." Her legs buckled. He caught her anyway. Her body was warm, real, heavy with life. His arms closed around her instinctively, protectively, as if his body had remembered what his mind had been denied. The bakery erupted in gasps. Zola clutched his coat, pain slicing through her lower abdomen. Panic surged. "Not now, not here. I can't," she whispered. "Something's wrong." Doyun's face drained of color. "Clear the street," he barked into his earpiece. "Now, get a car. Call Gwanium Medical Center and tell them I'm coming." She looked up at him, eyes wide with fear and fury. "You don't get to take control." His voice softened, breaking through the steel. "I know, but I'm not letting anything happen to you, or the baby." She wanted to argue, to scream, to push him away. Instead, another wave of pain stole her breath, and Doyun held her tighter, eyes dark with terror he could no longer hide, as the past and present collided with no mercy at all. Doyun moved like the world had narrowed to a single point in his arms. The bakery doors flew open as his men rushed in, panic barely contained beneath their discipline. Customers were ushered out with murmured apologies and firm hands. Someone locked the door. Someone else pulled the blinds halfway down. The warm, familiar space that had once been Zola's refuge turned into a sealed room charged with fear. Zola's breath came in shallow pulls. Her fingers dug into Doyun's coat as another sharp tightening rolled through her body. She hated that her instincts leaned into him, hated that her body remembered the safety of his chest, even while her mind screamed at her to pull away. "Put me down," she said through clenched teeth. "No," he replied, already moving toward the door. "You don't get to decide," she snapped, anger flaring even as pain clawed through her. "I get to make sure you're alive," he said. "Argue with me later." She tried to shove him, but the effort drained what little strength she had. Her forehead pressed against his shoulder. The scent of him, clean, sharp, familiar, hit her like a memory she had buried under years of survival. Outside, the street had been cleared with ruthless efficiency. Traffic rerouted, curious onlookers pushed back. A black car idled at the curb, doors open. As Doyun lowered her into the back seat, she caught sight of herself reflected in the tinted glass. Pale, breathing hard, one hand gripping his sleeve like she was afraid of falling. Disgust flickered through her. "I don't need you," she muttered. "I know," he said quietly. "You never did." The car surged forward. For a few seconds there was only the hum of the engine and the distant wail of sirens. Zola stared at the roof, blinking rapidly. She refused to cry. She had promised herself she wouldn't, not over him. Doyun sat beside her, rigid, hands clenched together. His mind raced, fragments colliding. Japan, Sioran's polished smile, forged signatures. Zola's belly. 8 months. He did the math again and again, as if repetition might make it less real. "You should have told me," he said finally. She laughed weakly. "You left." "I didn't leave you." "You left your wife," she shot back. "There's a difference." He closed his eyes briefly. "I thought you were safe." "I was never safe," she said. "I was hidden. There's a difference." Another tightening seized her. She gasped, nails biting into her palm. Doyun leaned forward instantly. "Is it getting worse?" She nodded despite herself. "It's early. Too early." "Look at me," he said, gentler now. She turned her head reluctantly. Their eyes met, and something old and dangerous stirred between them. Love, rage, grief, all tangled together. "Listen to me," he said. "Whatever happens, you're not alone anymore." Her laugh came out broken. "You don't get to say that like it's a gift." He accepted the blow without flinching. At Guanium Medical Center, the car barely stopped before doors were yanked open. Doctors and nurses were already waiting, summoned by his name alone. Zola hated that, hated how easily he bent the world to his will. As they wheeled her, through the halls, bright lights blurring overhead, panic surged hard and fast. "Doyun," she whispered, fear finally cracking her voice. He grabbed her hand. "I'm here." She squeezed his fingers instinctively, then seemed to remember herself and tried to pull away. He didn't stop her. He just stayed close. Dr. Han Seojin appeared, calm and efficient. "Zola, I'm going to examine you. Kang, I need space." Doyun hesitated. "Now," the doctor repeated. He stepped back reluctantly, fists clenched as he watched the curtain close between them. Minutes stretched like hours. Doyun paced the corridor, his men standing silent at a distance. Every second felt like punishment. He replayed their last argument, the way she had looked at him across the counter like he was a stranger. Sioran. The name hardened into something lethal in his chest. When the curtain finally opened, Dr. Han stepped out. She's experiencing early labor symptoms, but it's stress-induced. We're stabilizing her. The babies. He paused. Babies? Doyun echoed. Yes, the doctor said carefully. There are two. The world tilted. Two. Doyun's hand went to the wall to steady himself. Images flashed. 2 small hands, 2 breaths, 2 lives he had almost lost without ever knowing they existed. Are they? His voice failed him. They're holding for now, Dr. Han said. But she needs calm. No more shocks. Doyun nodded once, sharply. Do whatever you need. Inside the room, Zola lay back against the pillows, exhausted. When Doyun entered quietly, she turned her face away. You didn't know, she said before he could speak. About the second one, neither did I. He moved closer, stopping at the foot of the bed. Why didn't you tell me about the first? Her jaw tightened. Because you made it very clear I wasn't part of your world. That was never true. Then why was I a secret? She demanded, tears finally spilling. Why did I have to hide my ring when your family visited? Why couldn't you say my name out loud? His silence answered her. She let out a broken sob. I loved you enough to accept that. And you still let me believe you didn't want me. I was wrong, he said hoarsely. I was trying to control everything. I didn't see that I was destroying us. She laughed bitterly. You didn't destroy us. You handed us to someone else. His eyes darkened. Sioran will answer for this. She looked at him sharply. No, I don't want blood on my children's story. He hesitated. You don't know what he did. I know what he took, she said, and I survived anyway. The strength in her voice stunned him more than any accusation could have. She turned to face him fully. You don't get to fix this with violence. He exhaled slowly. Then tell me how. Her gaze dropped to her belly. You start by listening, not commanding. He nodded once. I can do that. Silence settled between them, heavy but different now. Not empty, unfinished. After a while, she spoke again, softer. I didn't disappear to punish you. I know, he said. I disappeared because I was afraid, she continued. Of your world, of your family, of raising a child where power mattered more than love. His throat tightened. I would have protected you. I protected myself, she replied, and them. He couldn't argue with that. Hours later, as night fell outside the hospital windows, Doyun sat beside her bed, awake and vigilant. Zola slept fitfully, one hand resting over her stomach. He watched the rise and fall of her chest, the subtle movements beneath her skin. 2 lives, his blood, her strength. He leaned closer, voice barely a whisper meant for no one else. I failed you once, I won't again. Outside the room, his phone vibrated. A message from one of his men. Sioran had been located. Doyun's jaw tightened as he silenced the phone and slipped it back into his pocket. Whatever reckoning was coming would wait. For now, he stayed exactly where he was, by her side, guarding the fragile line between past betrayal and a future that, against all odds, still breathed. Morning crept into the hospital room quietly, pale light slipping through the blinds. Zola woke to the sound of machines humming softly and the unfamiliar weight of exhaustion settling into her bones. For a moment, she didn't remember where she was. Then she shifted. A dull ache radiated through her lower back, and instinctively her hand went to her belly. Relief washed over her when she felt movement, small, reassuring flutters that reminded her everything was still real, still here. She exhaled slowly. Someone stirred beside the bed. Her eyes opened fully. Doyun sat in the chair pulled close to her side, his coat draped over the back, sleeves rolled up. His head was bowed, forearms resting on his knees, fingers loosely interlocked. For the first time since she had ever known him, he looked human, not untouchable, not carved from power and certainty. just a man who hadn't slept. She watched him in silence, heart tightening despite herself. He sensed her gaze and looked up instantly, dark eyes sharp even through exhaustion. "You're awake." "Yes," she said softly. He stood immediately, too fast, as if afraid she might vanish if he moved too slowly. "How do you feel?" "Tired," she admitted. "Sore?" He nodded, relief flickering across his face. "Dr. Han said the contraction stopped overnight. He'll come back to check on you soon." She studied him for a long moment. "You stayed." "I wasn't leaving." "You could have," she said. "You have an empire to run." He looked at her steadily. "It can survive a night without me. You couldn't." The blunt honesty of it knocked the breath from her chest. She looked away, uncomfortable with how easily his words still reached her. Silence settled again, thicker this time. "You didn't have to clear the streets," she said eventually. "I did," he replied. "I won't apologize for that." She huffed softly. "Of course you won't." He hesitated, then asked quietly, "Why didn't you go back to Africa?" Her head snapped toward him. "What?" "You could have," he continued carefully. "You had family there. It would have been far from me. From my world." Her lips pressed together. "Because this was my home too," she said. "Because Mama Yunja built that bakery with her hands. Because leaving felt like letting your family erase me completely." Pain flickered across his face. "They never erased you." "They tried," she said simply. The truth of it sat heavy between them. A nurse entered briefly to check her vitals, offering polite nods to Doyun that carried a hint of nervous respect. Zola noticed it, the way people shifted around him, how his presence bent the air. She had once thought standing beside him made her powerful. Now she knew it had only made her invisible. When they were alone again, she spoke before she could stop herself. "Did you ever plan to tell them about me?" "Yes," he said immediately. "When?" He opened his mouth, then closed it. Her laugh was sharp but tired. "That's what I thought." He didn't defend himself. "I kept waiting for the right moment, the right balance of power. I thought if I controlled everything first, nothing could touch you." "And while you waited," she said, "your cousin destroyed us." "I know." Her eyes burned. "Do you?" He stepped closer to the bed. "I know I let fear guide me instead of honesty." She looked at him then, really looked at him, and saw something she hadn't expected. Regret without excuses. Her voice softened despite herself. "I read those papers over and over. I kept thinking maybe you'd show up. Maybe you'd stop it. But you never did." His throat worked. "I never knew." "Intent doesn't change impact," she said quietly. He nodded once. "I understand that now." The door opened again, this time with purpose. Dr. Han entered, clipboard in hand. "Good morning. How are we feeling?" "Stable," Zola said. The doctor smiled slightly. "Good. We'll keep monitoring, but if things stay calm, we may be able to delay delivery another week or two. That would be ideal." Doyun stiffened. "Another episode like yesterday could change that?" "Yes," Dr. Han replied. "Stress is the biggest risk factor right now." His gaze flicked to Zola, guilt tightening his features. After the doctor left, Zola spoke carefully. "You should go." He frowned. "What?" "You being here brings chaos," she said. "Your men, your enemies, your name. I need calm. I can provide security without—" "That's still stress," she interrupted. "Just go handle whatever it is you need to handle." "I'll be fine." The lie tasted bitter even as she said it. Doyun stared at her, torn. "I don't want to leave you again." She met his eyes. This time, it would be different. After a long moment, he nodded. "I'll be back tonight." She didn't answer. Hours passed slowly. Zola dozed, waking occasionally to the soft sounds of the hospital. Her thoughts drifted despite her efforts. Memories surfaced uninvited. Doyun's hands guiding hers over dough, his rare smile when she teased him. The way he used to watch her like she was the only steady thing in his world. She pressed her lips together. Loving him had never been the hard part. The door opened quietly. Mama Yunja stepped inside. Zola gasped. "Mama?" The older woman moved slowly, but with purpose, her lined face fierce with worry. "Child," she said, voice trembling, "you scared me half to death." Tears spilled freely as Zola reached for her. "I'm sorry." Mama Yunja hugged her carefully, hand resting over Zola's belly. "I felt it. Something wasn't right." Zola laughed weakly. "You always do." Mama Yunja pulled back and studied her face. Then her gaze shifted to the empty chair beside the bed. "He was here." Zola nodded. Mama Yunja murmured. "The air still smells like trouble?" Despite everything, Zola smiled. "He knows," Zola said softly. "About the babies." Mama Yunja's eyes widened. "Babies?" Zola nodded again. "Twins." The older woman let out a sound that was half laugh, half sob. "Stubborn children, just like their parents." Zola swallowed hard. "Mama, I don't know what to do." Mama Yunja cupped her face gently. "You do," she said. "You're just afraid of choosing yourself." That night, as promised, Doyun returned. He stood in the doorway for a moment, taking in the sight of Zola asleep and Mama Yunja sitting guard beside her bed like a sentry. Mama Yunja rose slowly and approached him. "You," she said quietly. He bowed his head slightly. "Aomoni." Her eyes were sharp. "You hurt her." "Yes." "You hid her." "Yes." "You let lies break her spine while she carried your children." His hands clenched. "Yes." She studied him for a long time. "And now?" "Now," he said, voice low, "I will do what I should have done from the beginning." "And that is?" she asked. He met her gaze. "I will choose her, publicly, completely." Mama Yunja nodded once. "Good, because if you don't—" "I know," he said. "You'll kill me yourself." A ghost of a smile touched her lips. Doyun stepped back into the room and took the chair beside Zola again. As he sat, his phone buzzed. A message. Seorin had been detained by internal forces. He was demanding to speak. Doyun's expression hardened. Zola stirred, eyes fluttering open. "You're back." "I am." She hesitated, then asked, "Are you angry?" "Yes," he said honestly. She looked worried. "What will you do?" He reached for her hand, slow, giving her time to pull away. She didn't. "I will tell the truth," he said. "To my family, to the city, to everyone." Her breath caught. "That will make us targets." "I know." She searched his face. "Why would you risk that?" He squeezed her fingers gently. "Because I already lost you once by trying to keep you hidden. I won't make that mistake again." Tears slid silently down her temples. For the first time in 8 months, Zola allowed herself to believe, just a little, that the future might hold more than survival. And somewhere in the shadows of Mokwa City, Kang Seorin waited, unaware that the lies he had built his power on were about to collapse under the weight of truth, blood, and 2 unborn heartbeats that refused to be erased. The confrontation did not happen in shadows. Doyun made sure of that. By the time dawn broke over Mokwa City the next morning, the underworld already knew something was wrong. Meetings were postponed, orders stalled, phones rang unanswered. Power, when disrupted, made noise, and everyone could hear it. Kang Seorin was brought in just after sunrise. Not dragged, not beaten, not publicly humiliated. He was escorted. That alone sent a message far louder than violence. The private chamber beneath Hedam District headquarters was silent when Doyun entered. Stone walls, a single long table, no weapons in sight. Seorin sat at the far end, impeccably dressed as always. Legs crossed, hands folded, expression calm to the point of arrogance. "You kept me waiting," Seorin said lightly. Doyun took the seat opposite him. "You kept my wife waiting for 8 months." The word landed heavy. "Wife." Seorin's eyes flickered. just for a fraction of a second. Then he smiled. Ex-wife, surely. Doyun leaned forward, elbows on the table. His voice was quiet. Say her name. Seorin's smile thinned. Zola. The air shifted. You forged my signature, Doyun continued. You delivered papers I never authorized. You told her I wanted her gone. Seorin shrugged. You were weak. I solved a problem. You created one. Seorin laughed softly. You were risking everything for a woman the family would never accept. I did what you were too sentimental to do. Doyun's gaze sharpened. You decided that for me. I protected the bloodline, Seorin said smoothly. A foreign wife, mixed children. You know how the elders would react. Doyun stood slowly. Every man in the room straightened. You don't speak for my blood, he said. Seorin's voice hardened. You think announcing her now will go smoothly. You think the city will accept her. I don't need acceptance, Doyun replied. I need truth. Seorin rose as well, meeting his cousin eye to eye. Truth won't save you from consequences. Doyun smiled. It was not kind. No, he said, but it will save her. He turned away, signaling with a single motion. Two men stepped forward. What are you doing? Seorin snapped. You're stripped of authority, Doyun said calmly. All holdings, all command. You can't. I already did. Seorin's composure cracked. You destroy family for her? Doyun turned back. I destroyed family by hiding her. Seorin was removed without another word. There was no blood on the floor, but power had shifted, and everyone felt it. Zola sensed it before anyone told her. It came as a heaviness lifting from her chest, as if something poisonous had finally been cut away. She sat by the hospital window, watching clouds drift slowly, Mama Yunja knitting beside her. He did something, Mama Yunja said quietly. Zola nodded. Yes. A knock came at the door. Doyun entered, his presence calmer but heavier somehow, like a storm that had already passed through. It's done, he said. Zola studied his face. What does that mean? He won't touch you, Doyun said, or the children, ever. She exhaled, relief trembling through her. And your family? They'll know everything, he replied. Today? Her heart skipped. Publicly? Yes. Fear surged. That's dangerous. So was lying, he said. I choose danger. She looked at him for a long moment. Why now? Because every day I delayed was another day you carried this alone, he said. I won't allow that anymore. Tears welled despite her efforts. You can't undo what happened. I know, he said softly, but I can stand in it with you. That afternoon, Doyun called a formal gathering. The elders arrived first, suspicious and sharp-eyed. Lieutenants followed, the room filled with men accustomed to control, none of them expecting what was about to be said. Zola watched the live feed from the hospital, hands trembling in Mama Yunja's grasp. Doyun stood before them all. I was married, he said. The room erupted. To Zola Abeni, he continued. She is my wife. She has been my wife for over a year. Shock rippled through the crowd. She was hidden by my decision, betrayed by lies not of my making. She carries my children. A murmur, anger, disbelief. And if any man in this room believes he has the right to question her place, Doyun finished, you are free to challenge me. Silence. No one moved. The feed ended. Zola's chest heaved as she pressed her hands to her face. Mama Yunja squeezed her gently. You see, she whispered. Truth has weight. That evening, Doyun returned to the hospital. Zola was waiting. You did it, she said quietly. I did, he replied. She searched his eyes. There's no going back now. He nodded. I know. Another contraction rolled through her unexpectedly, sharper this time. She gasped, clutching the bed rail. Doyun was at her side instantly. Zola! It's different, she whispered. fear flashing. It hurts more. Doctors rushed in. Voices overlapped. Monitors beeped faster. Dr. Han's expression turned serious. She's progressing. We need to prepare. Zola's panic surged. It's too soon. Doyun took her hand firmly. Look at me. She did, tears streaming. I'm scared. So am I, he admitted. But you're not alone. Hours blurred into pain and breath and effort. Zola clung to his voice as contractions intensified, grounding herself in his steady presence. You're strong, he whispered. I see you. She screamed his name when the pain peaked, fury and fear pouring out of her in raw sound. And he stayed. When the first cry pierced the room, sharp and alive, Zola sobbed openly. It's a girl, Dr. Han announced. Zola laughed and cried at once. Amara, she whispered. Then chaos. Wait, there's another heartbeat. Doyun froze. Another cry followed, deeper, louder. A boy, the doctor said. Doyun sank to his knees beside the bed, overwhelmed. 2. Zola reached for him weakly. Taejun, she whispered. He took her hand, pressing his forehead to it, tears falling freely for the first time in his life. We made it, she murmured. He looked up at her, eyes wrecked and reverent. You made it. Outside the room, Mokwa City buzzed with the news. The hidden wife, the twins, the truth that could no longer be buried. And as Doyun held his family for the first time without secrecy, he knew this was only the beginning, not of peace, but of a future he would now fight for openly, with everything he had. The days after the birth passed in a strange, suspended quiet, as if the world itself was holding its breath. Zola barely noticed the city's reaction at first. Her universe had narrowed to the soft weight in her arms, to the way Amara's tiny fingers curled instinctively around her thumb, to the low, restless sounds Taejun made when he slept. Pain lingered in, her body deep and exhausting, but it felt distant compared to the overwhelming pull of motherhood. Every breath they took felt like a victory. Doyun rarely left the room. When he did, it was only to handle matters he refused to let reach Zola's ears. Security rotated constantly. The hallway outside her room was always occupied, not by menacing figures, but by quiet, watchful ones who spoke softly when they passed. He had ordered it that way. One afternoon, as sunlight spilled across the bed, Zola watched him standing by the window with Taejun cradled carefully against his chest. His movements were awkward, overly cautious, as though afraid his own strength might harm something so small. You're holding him like he's made of glass, she said softly. He glanced back at her, startled, then looked down at his son. He is. She smiled faintly. He's sturdier than he looks. Doyun shifted his grip slightly, relaxing just a fraction. Taejun's tiny fist latched onto his shirt, anchoring him. Something in Doyun's chest cracked open. I missed everything, he said quietly. Zola adjusted Amara in her arms. You're here now. That doesn't erase what you carried alone, he replied. The fear, the nights, the questions. No, she agreed. It doesn't. The honesty hung between them, heavy but clean. A knock came at the door. Mama Yunja entered slowly, carrying a small cloth bundle. Her eyes softened instantly at the sight of the babies. They're even more beautiful today, she said. They change every hour, Zola replied. Mama Yunja approached Doyun and studied him with an intensity that made even seasoned men uneasy. Then she reached out and gently touched Taejun's cheek. You, she murmured, carry storms in your blood. And you, she added, turning to Amara, carry light. Doyun watched her closely. Do you think they'll be safe? Mama Yunja met his gaze without hesitation. That depends on you. He nodded slowly. Then I will change what must be changed. That promise was tested sooner than he expected. 2 nights later, as rain lashed against the hospital windows, a message reached Doyun's phone. A faction aligned with Sioran had refused to accept his removal. Whispers of retaliation spread through the underworld like oil on water. Doyun stood at the foot of Zola's bed, jaw clenched. "What is it?" she asked quietly. He hesitated. "Noise," he said. "Nothing that will reach you." She didn't believe him. "You don't have to protect me from the truth anymore." He exhaled slowly. "Some men believe removing Sioran weakened me." "And did it?" "No," he said calmly. "It clarified me." Her heart pounded. "What does that mean for us?" "It means I will move our center of gravity," he said. "No more half measures, no more shadows." She searched his face. "You can't dismantle your world overnight." "I don't need to dismantle it," he replied. "I need to reshape it." She absorbed that quietly. "And if it comes for us anyway?" His eyes darkened. "Then it will meet me first." The following morning Zola was discharged. Leaving the hospital felt surreal. The sky was bright, the air crisp. A small convoy waited outside, discreet but unmistakable. Zola hesitated at the threshold, anxiety tightening her chest. Doyun noticed instantly. "We can take another route, or wait." She shook her head. "No, I won't keep running." He nodded, respect flickering in his gaze. The house he brought them to was not the cold fortress she had expected. It sat on the outskirts of Mokwa City, surrounded by tall trees and quiet roads. Light poured through wide windows. The rooms smelled faintly of wood and clean linen, not power or fear. Zola stepped inside slowly. "This doesn't feel like you." "It didn't before," he said. "It does now." The nursery was already prepared. Neutral colors, soft fabrics, 2 cribs side by side. Zola's breath hitched. "You planned this." "I planned to come back to you," he corrected. "I just didn't know when." That night, after the house settled into quiet, Zola stood alone in the nursery, watching her children sleep. Doyun appeared in the doorway. "You don't sleep," he observed. "Neither do you," she replied. He stepped closer. "I wanted to ask you something, and I need you to answer honestly." She turned to face him. "Go on." "Do you want to stay married to me?" he asked. "Or do you want freedom with protection?" The question stunned her. "You'd give me that choice," she whispered. "Yes," he said, "because love that traps isn't love, and I already trapped you once." Her eyes filled. "I don't know if I can forgive you yet." "I know. But I also know," she continued slowly, "that I don't want to do this alone anymore." Hope flickered in his expression, cautious and restrained. "Then stay, not as my possession, as my equal." She stepped closer, close enough to feel the warmth of him. "No more secrets. None. No hiding. Never again. No choosing power over us." He swallowed. "I choose you." Tears slipped free. She rested her forehead against his chest, allowing herself this small surrender. His arms came around her gently, as if asking permission even now. Outside, the city watched and waited. Some accepted the change. Others plotted. But inside the quiet house, with 2 newborn heartbeats filling the air, something irreversible had begun. Zola knew the road ahead would not be easy. There would be danger, judgment, fear. But for the first time since the lies shattered her life, she wasn't walking it alone. And Doyun, standing in the soft light of the nursery with his family finally visible, understood a truth power had never taught him. Nothing he had ever ruled was as terrifying or as sacred as the responsibility now sleeping in that room, and he would burn the world down before letting it take them. The first threat came quietly, too quietly. It arrived not as violence but as information, whispers threading through Mokwa City, names surfacing where there had been none, glances lingering too long when Zola stepped into sunlight. Doyun felt it before it reached her, the subtle shift in the undercurrent of his world, the way predators tested boundaries before striking. He adjusted the perimeter without telling her. Zola noticed anyway. It was the third day in the house when she realized the guard rotation had doubled. Different faces, tighter timing. Doyun moved through rooms with a tension he tried to hide but failed to erase. She confronted him in the kitchen late one night, Amara sleeping against her chest in a sling while Taejin lay in a bassinet nearby. "You said no more secrets," she said quietly. Doyun paused mid-motion, a glass of water in his hand. He set it, down slowly. "I said no more lies." "That's not the same thing," she replied. He turned to face her fully. "You're exhausted. You shouldn't be worrying about—" "I'm worrying because you are," she cut in, "and because this affects our children." The word "our" still landed like something fragile between them. He ran a hand through his hair, frustration and restraint battling across his face. "There are factions that don't like change." "Because you chose me," she said. "Yes," he replied without hesitation. Her throat tightened. "Do you regret it?" He stepped closer. "Never." She searched his face. "Then tell me." He exhaled slowly. "Sioran's removal fractured loyalties. Some men believe challenging me now would prove strength." "And you?" she asked. "I believe letting them try would be a mistake." Her stomach clenched. "So what happens?" "What always happens," he said. "They test. I respond." She shifted, Amara gently, lowering her voice. "I won't have my children grow up surrounded by war." He softened instantly. "Neither will I." She held his gaze. "Then choose carefully how you respond." That night, after Zola finally slept, Doyun stood in the courtyard beneath a moonless sky, phone pressed to his ear. "No public displays," he ordered. "No bodies, no fear reaching the house." A pause. "Yes," he continued coldly. "Neutralize the message, not the men." He ended the call and stood still for a long moment, listening to the quiet. This was the balance he had never learned before. Power without spectacle, protection without domination. Inside, Zola stirred. She dreamed of flour-dusted counters and rings hidden in drawers, of papers tearing themselves apart, of voices arguing in languages she didn't understand. She woke with a start, heart racing. Doyun was at her side instantly. "What is it?" he asked softly. She shook her head, breath uneven. "Just a dream." He sat on the edge of the bed. "About me?" "Yes," she admitted. "I'm sorry," he said. She studied him in the low light. "You can't apologize for existing. I can apologize for how I let that existence hurt you." Her eyes burned. "Sometimes I'm angry that loving you was never enough to protect me." His voice was steady but low. "And sometimes I hate myself for believing power could replace courage." She let out a shaky breath. "What happens if this never gets easier?" "Then we learn how to carry it together," he replied. Weeks passed. Zola regained strength slowly. She took short walks through the garden with the babies, sunlight warming her skin, the quiet almost deceiving. Mama Yunja visited often, her presence grounding and fierce. One afternoon, as Zola sat beneath a tree nursing Amara, Mama Yunja watched her carefully. "You are still bracing," the older woman said. Zola looked up. "For what?" "For impact," Mama Yunja replied. "You think peace is temporary." Zola swallowed. "Because in his world, it is." Mama Yunja's gaze softened. "And yet, you chose him again." "I chose not to run," Zola said. "There's a difference." Mama Yunja nodded approvingly. "Good, because running teaches children fear." That night, the threat finally showed its face. A car breached the outer perimeter. Not aggressively, not violently. It simply crossed a line it was not meant to cross. Doyun was awake before alarms sounded. He was already moving when his phone rang. "Boss," a voice said. "They want a meeting." Zola felt his tension spike even before he spoke. "No," he said into the phone. "They want leverage." He ended the call and turned to find Zola standing in the doorway, Taejin in her arms. "You're leaving," she said. For an hour, he replied. I'll end this. She stepped closer. You said no more choosing power over us. He cupped her cheek, gently. This is choosing us. Fear flashed in her eyes. Then don't go alone. He hesitated. It's not safe. She held his gaze. Neither is pretending I don't exist in this. Silence stretched. Finally, he nodded. You won't leave the house, but you'll hear everything. He arranged the meeting in a controlled location, monitored and contained. Zola watched the live feed from a secure room, heart pounding as men she had never met spoke about loyalty and tradition and consequences. One of them said her name. Zola stiffened. She weakens you, the man said. Your children will divide us. Doyun leaned forward into the camera, expression calm and lethal. My children unify me. A murmur rippled through the group. You think love makes you strong? Another scoffed. No, Doyun replied. Love makes me precise. The meeting ended without bloodshed. The message was clear. Touch her, and the war would be personal. When Doyun returned, home, Zola met him at the door. She didn't ask if he was hurt. She knew. Instead, she wrapped her arms around him carefully, the babies between them. You came back, she whispered. I always will, he said into her hair. Later that night, as rain began to fall softly against the windows, Zola spoke the thought she had been holding in. If we're doing this, she said, we need to do it fully. He looked at her. What do you mean? No more half-acknowledgement, she said. No quiet corners, no protected anonymity. His brow furrowed. You want exposure? I want ownership, she replied. Of my life, of my marriage, of my children's names. He studied her, pride and concern warring in his eyes. That will draw attention. I already have it, she said. I won't shrink to survive anymore. A slow smile curved his lips. You've never been small. Then show them, she said. He took her hand. We will. The decision rippled outward quickly. An announcement followed days later. Not dramatic, not sensational, formal, public, unavoidable. Kang Doyun would host a vow renewal. Open, witnessed, recorded. Zola read the statement twice, heart pounding. You're serious, she said. Yes. This will bind you, she said. To me? To them. He met her gaze steadily. Good. That night, as Zola lay between her sleeping children, she felt something unfamiliar settle into her bones. Not safety, not certainty, but resolve. Whatever storms came next would not catch her hiding, and whatever enemies still whispered in the dark would soon learn that the woman they had tried to erase now stood in the light, unafraid, unhidden, and no longer alone. Rain had stopped, leaving Mokwa City glistening under the soft glow of streetlights. Inside the house, silence had settled like a comfortable blanket. Zola sat in the nursery, gently rocking Amara in her arms while Taejin slept beside her. The faint hum of the city reached them through the windows, distant and unobtrusive. A world that had once threatened to swallow them whole now seemed contained, at least for the moment. Doyun entered quietly, slipping off his coat, the exhaustion in his posture betraying the endless hours he had spent securing their future. He looked down at the babies, then at Zola, who met his gaze with tired but unwavering eyes. You're tired, he said softly. She shook her head. Not as tired as I was before, not when you're here. He stepped closer, letting his hand brush hers as he reached for Taejin. The small fingers wrapped instinctively around his, anchoring him in a reality he had nearly lost. They're everything, he whispered. And yet, I feel like there's a storm still waiting for us somewhere out there. Zola's brow furrowed. Do you think, Seorin? He shook his head. He's contained. For now. But you can feel it, she pressed. Something's coming. You always do. Doyun exhaled, pressing a hand to her shoulder. Then we prepare, together. The tension in the air was palpable, a quiet hum beneath the comfort of home. They had survived betrayal, secrecy, and fear, yet the knowledge lingered that power never truly slept. Someone, somewhere, was still plotting. And in the world Doyun had built, peace was always temporary. Zola leaned her head against his chest, listening to the rhythm of his heart and the faint patter of the city beyond the walls. "Then we face it like we always have," she murmured. "Together." He kissed the top of her head, a promise carried on his lips. Always. For a fleeting moment, the room felt infinite and safe. But in the shadows of Mokwa City, eyes watched. The name Seorin whispered again, a reminder that old grudges do not die quietly. Somewhere, a new player began to stir, sensing weakness in a family that had only just found its footing. And somewhere, beyond the quiet, the first tremors of a storm were forming, a storm that neither love nor power could fully anticipate. Zola looked down at her children and whispered, "Whatever comes, we survive." Doyun nodded, hands steady on her shoulders. "We will. Always." Outside, Mokwa City slept unaware, the calm a fragile veil over the tensions yet to erupt. And just beyond that calm, something or someone waited, watching, calculating, ready to test the family that had refused to remain hidden any longer. Thank you so much for following this story to the very end. If it touched you in any way, even just a little, please make sure to hit that subscribe button and leave a comment sharing your favorite moment. I read every single one, and they mean so much to me. Also, I'd love to know, what city are you watching from? I love seeing how far this story reaches. Until next time, stay safe, stay blessed, and remember, every calm has a storm waiting just beyond the horizon.